Forever Comics here with week 4 of the new 52. It's finally all said and done. In the end, I was not disappointed. Maybe 1 or 2 books here or there that maybe weren't as strong as I felt that they could have been. But still, hey, when number 2 comes out next month, who knows what's going to happen. And it could be as pretty soon as next week, as I was actually referring to the Green Arrow number 1, which didn't go as good as I expected it to. But hey, number 2's coming out, and I still look forward to it just as much to hope the story got better. But aside from that, excellent work all around. Writers, artists, creative teams, excellent work. You can't go wrong at this point. Keep it going strong. Marvel Comics is answering back with a lot of things on their own. First up this week with the new books that I picked up, which unfortunately I will not discuss yet because I haven't read them. We have Kick-Ass Volume 2, Issue number 4. It follows the story after the hit movie. It actually came out with Kick-Ass Volume 1 about a year or 2 ago. Average day high school kid wants to become a superhero. Obviously, in reality, that's impossible, so he ends up getting himself seriously hurt, near dead. Because of that, he has damaged nerves, nerve endings. He doesn't really feel too much anymore, so he's able to go out and take a good punishing, and after that, still come out a hero. A very weird story, incredibly graphic, not for kids whatsoever. Naughty language and whatnot. But this is the second volume coming out, and I'm collecting this, and I hope that once it's all wrapped up, I'll read it all as one giant story. And sometimes just the best way to enjoy certain miniseries. Also from Marvel, which I will not discuss yet, which is the Mighty Thor. Mighty Thor number 6 wraps up their first storyline for the new Mighty Thor series. It will continue. Great artwork, great story all along. I will discuss that also at another time. First book for discussion this week. Quick review this week as well, as we have a lot of books to get through. The New Avengers 16.1. Marvel Comics has answered back with their own, not restart, but a great starting point for first-time readers, or people who've been out for a while who just want to catch up with where all the Marvel characters are at now. So point 1 is something that every book will be coming out with over the next series of months, probably till the end of the year. And this week, of course, I picked up the New Avengers 16.1. I have New Avengers number 16, and number 17 is coming out within the next few weeks. Those 2 stories will continue. However, the 16.1 is just something in between, which is not necessarily related to the overall picture, but still gives you an overview of what the team is currently going through. You know, what the overall ambiance of the group is, who's in it, and what major storyline is going to happen for the for the rest of the year, basically. They set up a nice storyline. After the, aftermath, the fallout of Fear itself. So let's see how this works out. As in this issue, actually, we see the Green Goblin and the Avengers here battling it out. Norman Osborn was in prison, the original Green Goblin, thought dead in the 70s, 80s. He's now back, and he's actually let himself escape from a prison through the help of, cult members, if you will, and he's almost started his own uprising of people who believe in Norman Osborn. They believe he is the future. Spider-Man's worst arch nemesis next to Venom. So it was just very interesting to see that he's out again. And if we know anything about Marvel Comics, we see that the dark new Avengers are coming. So we see a group of evil superheroes. How does that work out? They really wouldn't be superheroes. A bunch of villains working for the government. It's going to be very interesting, and that's kind of where we see this going again. Norman Osborn is free. He's back in the mantle. And what will he do with all the power and the followers he's got? We will see. First up from DC, The Savage Hawkman. Originally, this book I was not going to pick up. I just kind of got it on a whim thinking, hey, 1 extra book, let me just at least pick up the number 1, see what it's about. And I at least want to give it the first 3 issues or so. It wasn't bad. The artwork was really good, and it actually surprised me more than I thought it would. You basically see Carter Hall, Hawkman, the Hawkman of old, beginning the issue actually ready to quit the mantle. He destroys his costume, the nth metal equipment that he holds, his wings, and his weapons. And literally, they blow up in a ball of fire, which turns into a flaming hawk, almost like an entity of energy that came out of these artifacts that he held, which ended up taking over his body and kind of blacking out. And it comes to some time later, and he wakes up, and his friend's waking him up, and he says, Carter, where have you been? Why are you all banged up? He's not really too sure, but he knows of what he did. He knows that it's all over, and they destroyed his suit. He gives up being Hawkman. He's had enough of it. He doesn't even know if this is really Willy Ronzo, if he really ever enjoyed it. Now, at the end of Brightest Day, which wrapped up earlier this year, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, his true love, his beloved, are actually two souls that have found each other among different lifetimes, been in love every lifetime, and every lifetime they meet, they die together. And this was actually the last opportunity at Brightest Day to come back together, in which they both didn't. She unfortunately didn't make it out of that whole issue and that whole event. And Hawkman since then kind of went into this rage, and we kind of see where the story picks up here in Savage Hawkman #1. He feels sort of like, what was it all really? Was it really all worth it? Would things have been different if he just would have made certain decisions? And he's ready to give up, but then we see that the Hawkman entity takes over, and when trouble comes afoot, the entity takes over, and he has no option but to become the Savage Hawkman. And it ends in a pretty decent cliffhanger with a dark entity coming from an ancient artifact that kind of steals his ability and kind of leaves him hanging for an to be continued. Can't wait to see where that goes. Next up, All-Star Western. That's right, a Western comic book. I couldn't wait to read this because I love Westerns. So this kind of just works all together. It's all about Jonah Hex in Gotham City back in the old Western days. 1880, I believe it is. Jonah Hex rolls into town, and he's still wearing his Confederate uniform from the Civil War, which has been over for quite some time. This just happens to be the only costume, the only thing he has to wear. He's a great gunslinging cowboy, a bounty hunter for hire. And when he comes to Gotham to solve a series of murders, it's funny to see just how he gets his detective work done, how he gets answers. Like I said, he's from the Wild West, so he gets things done his own way. And not everybody's too happy about it. As a matter of fact, rich and pompous people of Gotham City hate it, including one of Bruce Wayne's grandfathers, or great-grandfathers, the Wayne family line, who happens to have a dark history of their own, as well as Amadeus Arkham, the founder of Arkham Asylum, which now holds all of Gotham City's worst criminals, and Batman's criminals altogether. So you really get to see who's who of the old Gotham City, and you come to realize at the end of the issue, all of these people are linked to the murders in Gotham City. So Jonah Hex has literally been hired to solve the murders by the murderers themselves. It's really interesting, quite a mystery, awesome Western story, and the artwork inside works so well for the type of story it is. It's gritty, it's got the flat colors and a nice solid outline. It just reeks of the old Western days. Good read. Anybody into Westerns? I suggest picking it up. All-Star Western #1. Next up, another Justice League book. Unlike any other Justice League team, it's Justice League Dark, handling things paranormal and otherwise. Here we see the Enchantress, evil, I believe she's some sort of sorceress, dark witch, which is trapped in the magical envelope, sitting in the house in the middle of nowhere. And she happens to escape, and the energy is reading off the scale. The Justice League is alerted to this right away, however, and when Superman, Cyborg, and Wonder Woman try to stop it, they all find themselves trapped in this witch's world, and they're all almost killed. Due to the extremity that when you're locked into some kind of magical battle with a sorceress, you're in her world. You're doing anything under her terms. It's not in your world anymore. Remember that. Justice League had so much trouble to get to unite this new team of Justice League Dark, featuring Deadman, Zatanna, and a few other great characters you might have recognized from DC's past, the Vertigo line, John Constantine. So here we see this adventure kind of building up, and we see that they're all kind of brought together by Madame Xanadu, sorceress, good sorceress, who's kind of been flying throughout the DC future, this whole time. We see her in comics from the Middle Ages. We see her even, in books, storylines even before that. And we see her, she's putting this group together, and the group comes together due to the visions that she keeps seeing of some kind of apocalypse, and that's kind of the vision that we see as we see the words to be continued in the last page, a bloody apocalypse with a bunch of dead heroes. We'll see what happens next. Very good read for anybody into magic, mysticism, sorcery. Awesome. Next, Batman the Dark Knight. Here we see the same creative team, David Finch and now Paul Jenkins, come back to kind of continue what was Batman the Dark Knight Volume 1, which is only 5 issues that came out right before DC came out with the New 52. So here we go. This is the first issue, and it read well. Great intro from Batman, discussing fear and what fear really is, and how fear is just something that we create for ourselves. And the only way to manage it is for us to face it. My words may be kind of simple, but reading the book, he details it incredibly. Well written, and the artwork is just so much that it just oozes the Dark Knight. It is the Dark Knight, it's Batman. The darker stories will be told in the Dark Knight storyline, the comic line, and it begins here with a huge breakout from Arkham Asylum. And at the end, we kind of get to see a nice cliffhanger when we're introduced to the new Two-Face, as somebody's given him some kind of a hell of a steroided boost, and he's turned into some kind of raging Hulk with this dual personality thing going on. Interesting. We'll see what's going to go on next time. Arkham Asylum is loose, and it's up to Batman to get all these criminals back behind bars. Good read. Very good read. Incredibly well written. Like I've said before, and unfortunately, not a lot of the books that are coming up from the new 52 are really geared towards kids. I would say teenager at best. Start at the teenage years, for most of these books. However, a lot of young kid books are really available. These stories are dealing with some great elements, personal growth issues, things that some kids might not understand, things that be way above their heads, So it's really for, teenager to older reader, just stories that we can really appreciate, and unlike many movies or soap operas that, many enjoy. And with that being said, we come to one of the best written stories of the whole New 52 period, which is The Flash. Francis Manapul, former writer, has now become former artist for The Flash when he was writing with Jeff Johns, is now taking over co-creating writing roles, which we see going on a lot in the new DC 52, which is great. Me, myself, being an artist, would love the opportunity to be able to have a hand and foot in the writing element of a story. And here we see Just So, with a great cover by Francis Manapul. In this story, we basically see Flash reintroducing himself. We get to see his powers in almost every single array. We get to see the full spectrum of what Flash can do with just speed and the Speed Force. Great read all around. Francis Manapul's artwork continues to stun me. It's just basically the Flash. You think Flash, you see this artwork, it works perfectly. And luckily enough, this week, my friends over at Comic Book Jones were able to help me out by getting the variant cover. And luckily enough, thanks to my brother, this week is a 2-week variant. So we'll be able to see that in just a second. But the Flash here wraps up incredibly when an old friend of his happens to be part of a group that's trying to commit some kind of heist. And when he ends up getting killed, Flash realizes that it's an old friend of his named Manuel. Manuel actually comes to him later on in the issue, and Flash doesn't understand it. Right as he's trying to explain himself, they're getting chased down. Flash puts his uniform on, breaks into a speed burst, slows down, only to find that there's like another 20 Manuels standing around, a bunch of clones, and Flash doesn't know what's going on at all. Pretty odd beginning for a story. I can't wait to see where this grows. The detective, Barry Allen, is back in the mantle of Flash after Flashpoint. No mention of Flashpoint storyline in the new universe continuing, but there really doesn't have to be. It's a great kickoff, and it's an awesome start. Great read for those who are into it. Next, I have what was the most awaited book for the new 52. What I couldn't wait for the most after the events of Brightest Day, Aquaman #1. This book couldn't have been more original, more creative in its writing, incredible in its artwork and the way it looks. I was almost at a loss for words just how to really describe this to somebody who really doesn't know it. I mean, when people think Aquaman, they just think the guy who talks to fish, and this issue is almost basically a way of introducing that to that common fan or that common person who really doesn't know who he is. They explain to you, they break it down. It basically comes down to Aquaman saving somebody in the city, and they ask him what he's doing there. Doesn't he belong in the ocean? When just in reality, he was sitting at the shore.